Hey y'all, FirstClass 1972 signing in. Alright, so now we're working on the second set of the 3.5 liter cylinder heads. I wanted to go ahead and split it into two parts since we have two different scenarios going on here. So let me show you what I mean. Let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, we're going to use some spare parts from a 3.5 cylinder head. So let's get to disassembling. So here I'm going to go ahead and use a rag since it will help me keep the head in place while I'm breaking the bolts loose. Plus, the bottom of the heads will avoid getting any scratches. Not to mention, protect me from getting cut since these heads are really sharp. Alright guys, so quick update. So right now what I'm doing is, I'm taking the camshaft off these because we might use these instead of those over there. So let me show you guys why. So pretty much the camshafts have deep grooves, and I'm sure you guys already know that when this is the case, it's not a good idea to reuse them. So let's continue and take this out so we can get to the camshafts. Just going to wipe them off a bit to see how the cams are looking. Alright guys, so just what we're looking for. These cam bearing journals are actually looking better than the original cams. So here I pretty much go ahead and ask my friend to see what other parts we're planning on using. To which my friend lets me know that we'll be using the cam caps and cams from the spare 3.5 liter, but not the timing cap since we'll be using the original one. So as for the rest of the parts that we're not going to use, we're going to go ahead and store them away in this cardboard box. Now we're going to put the caps and camshafts into the hot tank in order to get them washed up. I'm also going to wipe off any excess oil from the parts, just so that they're not drenched in oil when being stored away. So now we can begin to wash. So I'll be right back. So now that we got both cams cleaned up, it will be more visible to check for any wear on these cams. Alright, now I'm starting to see grooves here too, but not as bad as the first set of cams. So now we're going to clean the cam oil holes with compressed air. So honestly, I was out there for a couple hours. It literally took me a while to wash these because the heads that we took it out of had coolant and oil mixed together. So it was like a milkshake. And these are the cleaned up cam caps that we took off from the spare 3.5 that we had laying around at the shop. Evidently, these caps do look a bit different from the previous heads, as you can tell. So before this head goes back inside the F-150, we're going to check the oil clearance for the cams and the cam caps, which I will show you guys coming up in the video. After the heads have been prepped, it's time to install the solid lifters. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited because I've always wanted to do this procedure of checking the clearance with the plastic gauge. I've seen the guys do it all the time, but with the crankshaft, which I've always wanted to imitate. Yeah, I know we're working with small camshafts here, but I just couldn't wait to do this. So right here we got the plastic gauge. We're placing the plastic gauge on the camshaft bearing journals. This test needs to be done on the cams and cam caps that came from the donor cylinder head. This is because it needs to check out first before securing a spot in the original cylinder head that came out of the F-150. This is when I asked my friend if I also need to place a plastic gauge on the end of both of the cams, to where the timing cap goes, to which he says no because we're using the original timing cap that came off this original 3.5 liter cylinder head. Let's go ahead and install the cams. Guys, I think it's time to install the caps and torque them down. I'm also making sure when I install the caps, the plastic gauge doesn't fall out, so just making sure that they stay in place. Okay y'all, so because we had the original caps replaced, as I was installing them in order, the big cap threw me off a bit. So basically, I installed the cam caps in the wrong order. But let's ignore that for a sec and fast forward to the bolts being tightened down. So here, my friend reminds me that they need to be torqued down to 89 inch-pounds. Guys, I'm not even kidding when I say this, but because there's a lot that goes into rebuilding these heads, sometimes you just forget how to set the torque wrench like I did today. So I wanted my friend to confirm if I actually set the torque wrench right at 89 inch-pounds. And this is how it went. Isn't it right here? Isn't it 85 and then plus 5, so it's 90, no. So you're back up on 4?
No, that's 4, 84. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because this one goes all the way to 15.
Just so you know, I messed up on that one. So then he asked how much did I torque it down to which I said 84, because I thought I had set it to 89. He pretty much said it was fine since it's not that much of a difference. So side note guys, my friend reminds me that now that we added the plastic gauge, the cams and caps cannot be moved around because their location is pretty much set in stone at this point. Next, I'm going to torque the caps and then remove the caps so that we can check the oil clearance. Alright, now it's time to loosen up the bolts. Let's get it done. This is the part when I tell my friend, moment of truth, huh? Yeah, this is because I didn't install the caps in the correct order. So obviously, these are inaccurate readings. So you guys get the point. But besides that, I thought I'd share this learning experience. So here my friend is demonstrating how there is a millimeter side, but we're going to use a thousandth of an inch side. So you just put it close to the marked line on the cam bearing journals, then you just compare the closest measurement to the clearance paper. So I could tell as he scanned the head, he started to wonder why the measurements that we got are not adding up. Because soon after, he asked to see those two caps and then says that they barely touched. Then he asked if these two caps, 3 and 4, are from here, and I said yeah. And then there was silence, and that's when I asked, did I do something wrong? So then he follows up with, so where did you place that cam cap over there? This one I had it here because I thought camshaft number 1 is where the caps 2, 3, and 4 go. To which he says, no, this big cap actually goes over here because of this specific lobe. So cam cap number 2 goes here. Then we have cam cap number 4 and then cam cap number 3. So then here he tells me that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the correct order. And this is where he wanted to double check by asking me if this is where I bolted down this cam cap. To which I said yeah. So this is where it's kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty funny because my friend actually, he goes ahead and tells me that we're gonna have to do this all over again because I guess because I did it wrong. So we just gotta wipe off the plastic gauge from the caps and the cam bearing journals with brake cleaner. So let's go ahead and do that.
Mira, ni lo tocó.
Oh well, I guess he lost the plastic gauge, but we'll still reuse that one since it's untouched. So here's actually a pretty neat trick that my friend showed me. You can actually use oil to help keep the plastic gauge to stick on better. Okay, so here's a recap of why I installed the caps in the wrong order. So my friend was explaining to me how this current 3.5 head has the cam caps installed in the same position and order as a previous 3.5 heads that I worked on. To which I was thrown off like, no way, because it just seemed like this current 3.5 head cam caps were installed differently. But once he told me that the caps 2, 3, and 4 go on the exhaust side, that's when I understood what he meant. Alright guys, now that we cleared that out of the way, let's get this second set of the 3.5 liter head completed. So just to give you guys a backstory on why the truck is here in the first place, it actually broke down in Fresno and got towed to the customer's house. Then upon arrival, the customer went ahead and drove it here to the shop, which was a mistake since it started damaging the camshafts as well as damaging the block. So my friend and I pretty much knew that this long drive created too much friction and it eventually damaged whatever that was worn out. Alright guys, take 2. So while I was assembling the cylinder head, me and my friend were talking about how nice this truck is. And I was asking him how this truck has like a turbo. So I thought it was pretty crazy because these heads honestly look pretty small for this particular truck. But then that's what my friend said, it's because it's surrounded by so many things obviously around the engine that it makes it, like it gives it power. But then he starts talking about how it's not the same as a V8. Because a lot of vehicles nowadays, they're making smaller engines with turbo to compensate instead of going with the V8. So I just thought it was pretty interesting, you know, because yeah. But then the combo started steering towards camping. Yeah, camping is pretty fun, I'm sure. I don't really do it often, but I'm sure there's lots of you that do. As you can see, my friend was comparing the gauge to the push-down plastic gauge. And here's a close-up look. So what we're going to do next is, now that we know that it's touching, the final step is that the camshafts have to turn. According to my friend, based on the numbers, it should turn. So because this head is ready for the final assembly stage, we can take off the plastic gauge from the caps and the cam bearing journals. So now we will need to install the cams, torque them, so that we can run the test to see if the cams will officially turn. Alright guys, so my camera died, so I started to record with my phone. Let's get back into it. Right there, it's looking good. It is a bit tight to turn, but it will work just fine, since it's still turning. The other cams we took out from this head probably wouldn't have turned this smooth, since it did have too many scratches. So as long as it turns right here on the workbench, it's good to go. Since it's turning, we already know it's not too loose and not too tight, which gives us a green light to go ahead and use these cams and caps in this Ford F-150. Alright y'all, thank you guys for watching, and remember, it's not your job to make people understand what your purpose is. FirstClass 1972, signing out.